Thanks everybody for joining the Prosperous Sellers podcast. My name's Steve Yates. I'm your host and also CEO of Prime Guidance. And today we have a special guest, Shane Barker with Trace Fuse. Welcome, Shane.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for having me, man. This is exciting.
Of course. Yeah. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your company?
Yeah. So my name is Shane Barker. My company is tracefuse.ai. And really the core of what our business, really the only thing that we do is we help Amazon sellers that have reviews, negative reviews that are hurting their listings or hurting their products. Really what we're focusing on is reviews that violate Amazon's guidelines or that maybe are fraudulent or have something where maybe you're being attacked or something like that. So that's the core of our business.
So, I don't know if everybody realizes just how impactful reviews are. Have you ever done any kind of analysis into like what the value of a review is and how much deterrence a bad review, especially if it's marked helpful, goes to the top of the list or something, can impact a listing?
Yeah, I mean, really, if you think about it, and I'll give you some good examples. I mean, the review system on Amazon is the heart of Amazon. I mean, it just is, right? If they didn't have the review system, you wouldn't know what to buy in theory, right? We automatically, give you an example. Like when we go look at a product, we might not realize it, but the first thing we look at are the reviews.
Yeah.
Right. If it has bad reviews and we're like, I mean, think about restaurants that you go to. Like if you're in a new town, you go look and the pizza place has a 3 out of 5, you're not taking your family there. It's the same thing on Amazon. So if you have bad reviews, and then people look at that and go, they would look at how many reviews you have. And then if you have some bad ones, and obviously, competitors know that as well. And there's certain categories that we can talk about that are more aggressive than others in regards to, putting up fake reviews. That is a reality of Amazon. You get to a certain point, you're gonna come up on somebody else's playground, and guess what? They might do some things that aren't what we consider ethical, or karma's going to come back and get them. They got to be careful of that. But it in theory, from an ROI perspective, there was a point where somebody said, "Hey, this makes sense to go and buy somebody else's products and send them to somebody in Australia or any place in the world, and then give them a verified review." Now you're going to give them a bad review. So, if you think about it, I mean, reviews are the core of everything for Amazon. I mean, it affects your PPC costs. It affects everything. If you got bad reviews, you're not showing up on page 1. You're just not, right? So it's like, I don't think people understand, or some people don't realize the magnitude of the reviews and how impactful if we remove a 1-star is equal to anywhere from a 5 to 25 stars, which is very, very impactful. So most people will say, "Oh, I just want to get more positive." Well, you should absolutely do that, right? You should absolutely get more positive reviews, but it would be great. The analogy I always use is like a diet. It's like if you eat well and work out, guess what? You're going to, shed that 5-10 pounds faster. I've always been really great at working out and haven't been that great at saying no to beer. I'm Irish, so you can see the red beard. There's really nothing I can do except keep drinking beer and try to work out. So, the way I look at that is if you do both things, it happens faster. So for Trace Fuse, if we're removing the 1, 2s, and 3 stars and you're getting more 4s and 5 stars, which we highly recommend, you're going to transition up, go down in the BSR, go up in your star ratings faster, and it's going to really, really affect sales. So, we've seen people, you talk about case studies and stuff. We've seen some of our clients that have gone from a 4.3 to a 4.2, and they've lost anywhere from 10 to 50% of their sales overnight because of that. So, what I always try to encourage people to do is to be more, proactive instead of reactive, right? Like go in and protect that ASIN. We have a monitoring system that's baked into our program. So what that means is that they can come in and activate that ASIN, and we'll be monitoring that ASIN. So if any reviews that come in, let's say they came in today, in the next few days, our system will detect that. And if it's anything against Amazon's guidelines or fraudulent, we'll be filing cases on it. So our goal is to monitor those ASINs and protect those ASINs. So if you get attacked or if some crazy reviews come in, especially, as we record this is before Prime, right? We got Prime coming up in another week or so. And same thing with Christmas. And you'll see a lot of those attacks are very strategic on when they happen. And so if you're monitoring, hey, you have one more step of protection to be able to protect those ASINs and your brands and keep those sales going up.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Amazon they put a lot of infrastructure in place that they did early on that I think caused them to really be winners. And one of them is fast shipping. Another one is reviews, just easy, trustworthy customer service. And now consumers go there for research, whether they're going to buy on Amazon or not. They say that over 70% of people that go to Amazon actually have an intent to buy off of Amazon. So the reviews aren't just impacting your sales performance on Amazon. They're impacting, if you're a brand that sells in offline channels too, they're impacting your offline performance as well. And it's harder to measure, but it's true. So first thing and by the way, that's good, bad, or indifferent, right? So if it's a bad keyword, it could hinder, that could jump out to the customer and say, oh, beware, I don't want that product. Or if it's a good keyword, it could really help you accelerate your SEO ranking for the listing. So if you're not already doing it, make sure that you have the request review option turned on through a third-party tool like a Helium 10 or something, and that's going to trigger Amazon to automatically request a review so many days after. Or you can manually go into each order and hit request a review. It's not very scalable though. So I would highly suggest you do that, to your point, because you want to do both. You want to be acquiring reviews as fast as possible. That's one way to do it. You also have the Vine program for any new products under 30 reviews. That's a good program to get new reviews. But the bad reviews need to come down, and oftentimes those are not always fair, and they're not always reasonable, right? These aren't just necessarily customers that had a bad experience. They could be customers with a vendetta, or customers that are leaving the review in the wrong format. Maybe it's really should have been seller feedback. And that's exactly where your tool focuses, right? Like I imagine certain criteria that you're looking for. Is this related to a seller instead of a product? Is it using certain words that are prohibited? Do you have any, can you just share maybe some examples of what those are?
Yeah. So really what we're looking for is anything that violates Amazon's own guidelines or their own rules. So we're looking at where maybe somebody cussed in a review, mentioned a competitor, mentioned pricing, anything FBA related. So if something shipped, late, broken, or used, those are all things that we look at, because obviously that's not the seller, that's Amazon in the warehouse. Really anything that violates their guidelines. I mean, that's what we're looking for. There's certain things, and we go after the most egregious ones. So, we're looking for people that are cussing. And when I say cussing, I mean like the F word, right? Where it's like they're using something where I can file a case with Amazon. And if I went to, 100 Amazonians, they would all look at that and say, yeah, that shouldn't be there, right? Those are the ones that we're going after, the ones that it's like, hey, there's really no debate on this, right? I mean, at the end of the day. And so we were able to kind of crack that code. I mean, now we have like 500 clients. We removed over probably almost 14,000 reviews for our clients. So this is what we've focused on. We originally were doing some consulting and other things. And because of the need, we just said, hey, there's no reason to focus on anything else, which is difficult for me because I'm used to growing businesses and building out other revenue channels and stuff. But it's been so crazy. We've just been trying to get on more and more platforms. We do right now, US, UK, and Canada. One other thing I wanted to touch on too, Steve, is, and you kind of talked about like how reviews can, affect your Amazon listing. I have a story. I'm not going to say the client's name, but there's a client that we work with that she was doing $3 million a month it was a supplement. And her reviews, she picked up a certain, like an influencer, but it was an influencer that was running for president. And he ended up not winning. But the point was, she used him for this supplement. And guess what? The reviews started coming in, whether it be Democrat or Republican. I'm not going to tell you who was, but anyways, they started getting attacks because of the sponsor, because of their new influencer, and not because of the actual product. And their reviews tanked, but that's not the hard part. She was doing $3 million a month on this. So not only did she lose the money there, she started to get Walmart and Target that started to pull out because they looked at Amazon's reviews and said, hey, this is not something we don't want to bring this drama in-house. And so they were going to do it like 25,000 Walmarts or something crazy. They pulled it back to 15, pulled it back to 10, and she was losing the opportunity to be in those stores because they looked at her Amazon reviews as an indicator and said, wow, is it that the product's that bad, or is it you're just picking the wrong people to be, to be as an influencer? And obviously she had picked somebody, I always recommend companies like, listen, keep politics out of what you've got going on, because you're either you're gonna make one side very happy and the other side very mad. And it's like, why? I want to sell to both. Yeah, like exactly. Yeah. Just sell to everybody and just be Switzerland. Just smile and ship them out. So, anyways, that was a lesson for her, but that affected her sales, her reviews on Amazon affected her business outside of that in a tremendous way.
That's such a good point. I come from the background of being a merchant, overseeing teams of buyers. And when we would, look at a product, it's one of the first things you're going to do is how well is it liked out there in the market? And Amazon's the place that everyone trusts for reviews, including these retail buyers, they're going to be looking at that. And of course, they're going to look at price. And if your price on Amazon is not in line with what they plan to sell it at, or the quality of the reviews is poor, you're going to really hinder your opportunity to get in that retail account. So you want to be paying attention to that. You want to have stable pricing that's pretty uniform across the channels, and you want to have reviews that are really the best you can get. And the reality is you're leveraging terms of service to remove reviews, some of which, maybe it was a fair review. They just happened to use the F word. They shouldn't have done it. But instead of Amazon masking that word, which you'd think they'd kind of do automatically anyways, it's now against terms of service. And all you're doing is you're saying, oh, there's a match. It's against terms of service. Let's put in a request, and you're getting it removed. And you're taking advantage of what's available to you. And I think that's, one of the differentiating factors between a good seller and an outstanding or an advanced seller is you're leveraging every tool that Amazon's giving to you to differentiate and stand apart. So why not leverage it in this way too, and just have the best reviews you possibly can?
That's exactly it. And the other thing to think about is, I'll have sellers that will come to us and say, hey, I want to remove all of my critical reviews. And it's like, even if we did have the capability of doing that, like there is some value in negative reviews. There just is. Like, and sellers have to understand that if you are easily offended by a review, and I get it, I've always owned my own businesses. And so when you launch something and somebody says that, your kid's ugly, then you take that very personally, right? I mean, I get that 100%. I'm a very emotional guy. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. And guess what? I used to get really offended by that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that. This is my baby, It's going to happen. Things are going to happen on Amazon. Nobody on Amazon has a 5-star rating that's been selling for years. They just don't. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to have somebody that doesn't like you or something like that. That's okay. Look at those reviews and figure out how you can make a better product. That's really what the goal is there. If you have 10 people saying the exact same thing, assuming you weren't attacked, guess what? You got to use that. And I always tell people, like, well, your product you started off with today is not going to be the same product you have in 5 or 10 years. You're going to iterate. You're going to make changes. And so I know it sucks. It sucks when you launch and your first few reviews are saying, hey, there's a problem with something but guess what? That's going to be great information for you to be able to go get that, go and improve that product. If they violate, as you said, if they have a great review, but they use the F word or mention pricing, we're going to go after that review because that's against Amazon's own rules. We might say, hey, the reviews, it's a legit review, but they can at least look at that. But we're still going to file on that because that's what Amazon has the rules, and we're just abiding by their rules. And that's exactly it. Understanding the game and, understanding how to play it right. And once again, as you said, leveraging everything you can to be able to be a better seller.
Yeah. And you brought up a point about learning from reviews. It's so critical. Like, you should be learning from your reviews, and you should be learning from the reviews of your competitors. So your competitors, if there's negative call outs on your competitors listing that are actually a positive for you, you should be accentuating that positive on your listing to augment anyone that looked at that other product and saw the negative aspects. Now you're reassuring the customer you don't have those negative aspects. And on your own item, how can you make it better? How can you serve the customer better? Maybe it's something as simple as they had problems assembling it. Like, you can figure out, how do I improve the assembly instructions? How do I reach out to this customer? Now you can reach out to customers that are leaving 1 to 3-star reviews and asking them, to contact you so you can help make it right, or give them a refund or something. There's other tactics that you can deploy too, to try and say, oh, this customer wasn't satisfied. What do I need to do to satisfy the customer? And that is another tool in your tool belt, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what you got to do, is you got to figure out, how do you make it right? Right. I mean, at the end of the day, and if you can't make it right, or they're not responding to you, or something's happening there, then you look at it and say, hey, does this break any of the rules that Amazon has that they set up? And if it does, then great, you can file on that. And so we'll actually talk about this at the end too. We do have a special offer that's literally for free, so people can go and try to run their own ASINs and be able to do that. But we'll talk about that at the end. I'm going to save that for the end because it's kind of a big reveal.
Yeah, there you go. Give them a little anticipation.
That's it. That is always it.
I just lost my train of thought. So you talked about influencers earlier. I know you've got a lot of background in influencers. What are your suggestions on leveraging influencers to support an Amazon business in a better way?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a little backstory. So, I mean, I actually created the curriculum at UCLA with a friend of mine, Amanda, for influencer marketing. So I've been in the influencer marketing space for before it was called influencer marketing. At that point, we were just finding Instagram folks with tons of followers. So, what I learned through that whole process is really the value of building a community. And then, once that influencer builds a community, how you can tap in as a product. And that obviously, Amazon is a great platform for doing that, right? I mean, you can go and you can give products out and you can drive people to your Amazon listing. Amazon used to not be that excited about outside traffic. They have quickly turned and realized, hey, outside traffic is awesome. And guess we want to get as many people as possible. The key to influencer marketing, though, is that you really have to make sure that the influencers that you're picking are their audience is going to resonate with your product, right? So what's important is that, if let's say you have a yoga product, it's a yoga mat. Well, great. You want to go find a yogi, right? Which I know sounds very easy and basic, but what you don't want to do is you want to go find, Kim Kardashian, that is awesome and great and all the fun stuff. But the cost of that, how much it's going to cost you to do. And does she talk about yoga? She might be cute and beautiful and has this, and has 10 billion followers or whatever she has these days.
Yeah.
But is it going to be a good fit, right? Like, just because they have more followers doesn't mean that it's going to be automatically a good fit, right? I look at more quality of the followers than I do at quantity, right? And does it resonate? Great. If Kim Kardashian did yoga, 2 years ago, you're going to probably sell some products, but are you going to be able to break even on what the cost of that is? Probably not. Right now, if you go find a yogi in Los Angeles and you give them some free mats and you give them $500, that's going to be very different than $5 million to Kim Kardashian and praying at $30 a unit that you guys sell, whatever, 50,000 units to be able to break even. That's not even to make a profit. Right. I mean, there's other things you can, say that Kim Kardashian, did your product and sponsored your product, but how much is that going to cost you to be able to do that? So I look at, what you want to do if you're looking for influencers, you really want to look at, what is the type of influencer you're looking at, what does their audience look like? And there's plenty of tools out there that you can do that. You can run it and say, hey, most of their followers are in Los Angeles. They resonate with these types of brands. This is going to be the affinity to this. They usually make $100,000 plus. Do some intel. Don't just look at somebody that is the cheapest and that has the highest amount of followers. You really want to do a deep dive. You want to pick who you're going to be partnering with. I mean, it's like, you're really going into a small time marriage. I mean, think about it that way. Like, if you're going to get married, you don't just go, oh, you're cute, let's do it, screw it. It's like, that's not the attitude to have. It's the same thing, not quite as long as a marriage. I've been married to my wife for almost 20 years. So I haven't been working with influencers for 20 years. So we still have some time. But the idea of this is that you want to go in and you want to be able to take a look at that and figure out somebody that is excited about your product, not just looking for a free product. And you also want to do repetition. It's not just going and having them promote your product once, because people are kind of onto that these days. You really want to get somebody that really reps your product, that really enjoys your product. A one-time promotion. Also look at how often the influencers is promoting stuff. If they promote things 5 times a day, guess what? You're going to have, you're going to be divided up by 5 other brands or 4 other brands. So, right. And then you're either going to, that's your shot, right? Unless they promote, hey, I only promote something once a month. Awesome. Then you're going to have more eyeballs and they're going to used to seeing less offers. When they see an offer, they're going to know that it's something that's very valuable, opposed to somebody that sees 5 offers a day. And it's like, I don't know if they really love the product or if they're just pimping out the products and getting paid. That's the hard part. So those are my things for influencer marketing.
Yeah, I think that you brought up some good points. So one is quality over quantity. I think quality matters, especially if someone's an authoritative figure on a subject. Like if you're following someone on YouTube, you're following someone on Instagram or whatever channel you're talking about, and you trust that person is, they know what they're talking about. They know this industry in and out. And if they're going to put their name on a product, it's probably a good product. That's the kind of influencer you want to partner with, so that when they do make a TikTok video and they're calling it out, it's not just, like you said, 1 of 5 that they did that day and it loses all validity. It's, wow, this brand, this customer, this person likes this brand. All of a sudden it changes your perspective. And a lot of that perspective is changed subconsciously. You don't even realize what's happening. All of a sudden now you like a brand that otherwise you'd only heard of before, because now you've got that association with someone that you admire and trust. So I think that matters a lot. And it also helps you set the precedents that will help keep good reviews. Because a lot of times, people don't always realize that you don't want to oversell your product. You don't want to say it's the best thing since sliced bread and they get it and it's like, yeah, it's okay, it does its job. But Now I've got a 3-star or 4-star review. I want to tell them this is what it is, this is what it isn't. The customer clearly knows this is going to serve my needs. It may not serve my needs 100% of the time, but it's going to serve my needs 90% of the time. I already knew the 10% it wasn't going to do. So I'm okay with that. I'm more likely to leave a 5-star review than if I basically try and throw it out to everyone, try and make it seem as good as possible, use every influencer that's just going to throw their name on it because they want a buck. And now the consumer review trends come in lower than you anticipate. And it was somewhat your own doing because of how you marketed it and the influencers you may be attached to.
Well, and that's the key too, is I mean, when you look at the influencers, I mean, the cool part about influencers is guess what? If they're marketing your product, they're talking about your product, the people that are watching that are obviously going to come by and they already have a favorable opinion because they said, oh, this influencer said it was great. Well, guess what? They come in thinking it's going to be a great product, which is a good thing, right?
Mhm.
What you got to be careful of is once again, having them not promote it the correct way. And as I said, it's not just a one-time deal. Back, 10 years ago, you could have an influencer talk about it once and you could have some sales. What you really want to do, and you kind of touched on this, is, if subconsciously, if people are seeing it, right? Like right now, you guys could be looking at this and I could be wearing these glasses, right? These are my Tom Ford glasses. Tom Ford didn't give them to me, but these are my glasses. And guess what? Maybe you guys start seeing, oh, Shane has some new glasses, but I don't say anything about them. And then guess what? A month later, I'm like, hey, a lot of people have been asking about my new glasses that I got. I just happened to work out a deal with Tom Ford. Everybody that, buys this, you guys get 20% off, use the code this. And they go, oh my gosh, now we're not, I don't need to sell people out of the gate. Go, hey, do you guys like my glasses? Oh, you guys should go buy them. They're really great. Oh, wow, I can see so much better. People are like, okay, enough. But if they start seeing it, right, as placement, right? It happens in movies all the time. You see Nike or you see Ford, or it's the same thing with influencer marketing. Don't expect miracles off of one post or somebody writing one thing. It really needs to be a long-term play.
Yeah, and it may not even be measurable, like you said. That initial influence happened, and then over the course of several weeks ahead, it now reinforced that initial influence, and then maybe the consumer made a transaction. It's not always easily correlated, but nonetheless, you're having that benefit.
Yeah, agreed.
How about SEO? I know we talked about some of the benefits, but are there anything that from an SEO perspective that you would advise are tactics that could be included when either eliminating reviews or adding reviews, and just in listings in general? I know you have a lot of background in SEO as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, SEO is always an interesting game because once again you've got to either now it's you got to be seen on Google or Bing or wherever you're there, but also now the AI side of it, right? Which is another level of like, hey, if somebody goes and puts in a search and then there's going to be a little bit of an AI description on who they would recommend and that kind of stuff. So now you have to think about, hey, am I going to get to the top of the search engine? But then I also have to satisfy AI out there, right? So which is going to be another interesting thing that we've been watching it very closely, because I have another company, ShaneBarker.com, that we do. Obviously, we do consulting and everything on the digital space. So I have Trace Fuse and then I have Shane Barker. So they're a little bit opposites. One's in Amazon, one's more, like I said, digital marketing. But the SEO side of things is still a lot of the same framework can work with SEO. What I mean by that is putting out great content, internal linking with all those articles, getting promotions, promoting, getting backlinks, getting interviews. Podcasts are a great way, once again, to get the word out about your companies and be able to, have an educated conversation about things that you've got going on. There are a lot of different ways to grab backlinks and to get exposure. And the cool thing about SEO, I mean, obviously, is the fact that if you're direct to consumer and you're doing Amazon as well, it's nice to be able to have two revenue streams, right? I can promise you that if they're buying directly from you, you're going to be making more money than you would if you were selling off Amazon, because you don't have the fees. But then again, guess what? You don't also have the Amazon traffic and the system that they built, which makes it very easy to be able to sell something if you have a product. So if you're going direct to consumer, you definitely want to get, you want to get your products up there and you want to be number one for, anybody looking for your product. And then you got to think about different keywords that are going to also promote your product, So if you're, once again, yoga mats as the example, if you sell yoga mats and you got to look at that keyword volume and say, okay, how many other people are looking up yoga mats, right? And who is number one for that? So if it's Amazon and Walmart and all these big players, I'm not saying you can't break through that, but it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Amazon has a few backlinks last time I checked, and they're pretty popular last time I checked. It's going to be difficult, not impossible, but then you just got to figure out how are other ways that I can kind of beat the system, right? And I don't mean that
Mhm.
by cheating the system, but I mean that more of like, okay, what can I do that maybe Amazon and these other platforms can't do? And that's going to be, podcasts and everything. There's going to be other things where you can maybe pop up where like they have all the YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff. There's other ways to get into there, not just backlinks and articles. There's other types of content that indexes very well with Google. So you got to think about that. That can be Reddit posts, that could be Quora posts, that could be a number of different things that you could go and somebody could write something, you could answer that, and you could end up on that top thing. You don't own that platform, but guess what? That
Yeah.
still means that when anybody goes and reads that from Reddit or Quora, then they're going to see your answer down below, and that's going to make them want to inquire with you. So there's a lot of creative ways. I mean, I've only been doing this for 25 years, so I've seen it all, and done anything that's legal. That's white hat. I snuck up on gray a little bit when I was younger. We don't do that anymore, but we're all fully compliant. Obviously, Trace Juice is compliant with Amazon, and we're compliant with Google and anything that we do from an SEO perspective.
Sure. And now with the growth of AI tools and search engines being more heavily reliant on Amazon, I think it's more important than ever not just to look at a star rating, but look at specific review patterns and say, how can I augment some of those so that an AI summary, for example, is not calling out some negative elements that a few people happen to include in their reviews that may or may not have been anomalies or whatever. And also like the good stuff that Amazon's trying to push at the top. Like I saw that they're testing on a search result page, customers find this easy to assemble or something like that. And they're calling out like one of the top review, benefits that people mention in reviews. So it's really more important than ever, I think, to really understand your reviews and adapt for it. So let me give you just an example for the audience. So let's say you were selling a car mat. It's made of rubber. And that car mat, AI on Amazon summarizes a review and says, people love the mats. They think they're custom, fit, everything. But some customers explain that it smells strong of chemical or something like that. And that's not the case. Maybe there was some anomaly that happened, but there was only 2 reviews that mentioned that. And now Amazon's AI is surfacing that to the top when you've got 500 reviews, but it's calling out that little bit of negative that's kind of making you question, oh, is that something I want to deal with? Maybe I'll keep looking. You could then, even though they might be, let's say, 3-star reviews, you could still go and have those removed, perhaps not necessarily just to get your total score down as much as being more targeted based on what that review said too, correct?
Yeah, that's extremely valuable because what we're looking at is, as you touched on, is you can have amazing reviews and you get a few bad reviews and AI picks that up as like, oh, this might be the new problem with the product. The issue is either A, there could be a problem, or that could be somebody attacking you. And so somebody comes and writes those reviews. That's why I highly encourage people to be more proactive than reactive, because you don't want to wait for that to happen. You go, oh, crap, now I got to figure this out. You want to be able to say, okay, guess what? This review came in, Shane and his team, or even your team, whoever that is, knocked it down. Guess what? Now we don't have to worry about that. Because once it starts saying that it's hard to assemble or it smells like chemicals or all this kind of stuff, and we see that on a daily basis. We'll see people that will come and attack. I just had a demo with well, now going to be a client because he's signing up, but looking at his reviews, they had, I was like 50,000 global reviews, ratings and reviews, and they had over 3,000 critical reviews. And the last 15 reviews was like, oh, I don't have a bad gag reflex, but I tried this and I almost threw up. And oh, it smells like dog food. And oh my God, this smells like poop at the bottom of my foot. Like just like 10 reviews that were just crazy. And they have, they're selling thousands and thousands of units a month. But guess what? If the last 10 reviews say that it smells like dog this or crap or whatever, guess what? Amazon's going to go, oh, maybe it's a new version. We got to pick that up and let everybody know that it smells like that. So I'm hoping, obviously, I'm saying that out loud, but people are already doing that to either A, attack competitors, right? Which is just very unfair because the whole idea of this is you're using it to say, guess what? If I had 100 people say that it was hard to assemble, then it's pretty hard to assemble. We have to assume. But if you get 10 of reviews that say that and they're attacking you, then it messes everything up, because then you don't know what's real, what's not real. And you're trying to assess, is this really a problem or is somebody attacking me? And, then you've got to make those assessments. At the end of the day, who cares if they're attacking you or not? You should get that removed, right? I mean, like you don't, and that's where the monitoring, I know I keep touching on this, but the monitoring is so important, because then you're going to be able to sleep better at night, because guess what? We're going to be looking at those reviews and saying, hey, there's something funny going on here. Instead of you, because I've done it before I even had the software, I would look at reviews for one of my old businesses, and it would keep me up at night, because it's very stressful, man. It's like, I'm like, I know I do a good business, and you can have, a lot of them were ex-employees and, their conversations. But for me, it was like, man, and that's one of the reasons we created this, is because we just want to even the playing field. I think Amazon stops a good amount. We don't know exactly how much, because it stops before it happens. But I do know that they make it to the platform, because we're removing them on a daily basis. So, our goal is, once again, be proactive, go in there, take a look at that, let us monitor those, get those removed, and then there you go. Because as AI comes on, AI is not going to be perfect. Rufus isn't going to be perfect coming out of the gate, and they're testing that. But if they start picking up some bad stuff, and it's warranted or not warranted, it doesn't matter. It's out there. So now you got to go and try to clean that up.
The black hat actors are going to catch on real fast, and they're going to start using it. If you're a dominant seller in your space, you bet there's going to be a Chinese factory or something that's going to put a whole bunch of people on it and say, we want to take out this person. Here's a new tactic we've discovered. And boom, now all of a sudden you have all this new challenge that you're facing. So if one big takeaway from this is, if you do not have a review monitoring process, if you don't have a tool that's monitoring at the very least, just alerting you when you get bad reviews, so because I find it happens all the time. People just get busy, as an Amazon seller, you're worrying about inventory and advertising and sales and pricing and promotions. Well, who's to say that you're actually paying attention and you didn't notice that your product dropped from 4.5 stars to 4.2 stars, and now all of a sudden your sales dropped a lot because Amazon's rounding down to 4 on their star rating instead of 4.5. That can have a really dramatic effect. And then if you have all these black hat sellers that are all of a sudden putting bad comments in your listings and you're not paying attention, all of a sudden your sales start to erode and you're questioning, what happened? I don't understand. And then they reach out to someone like ourselves, and we start diving in and we uncover what the problems are and what needs to be done to fix it. And if they just simply had a review monitoring solution in place, that would be, they'd at least it would be known to them. But even better yet, a solution like yours, it's not only going to monitor it, but automatically, proactively report anything that is an error, and get those things removed promptly.
This is what I would recommend, right? I mean, and you're touching on it, is as entrepreneurs on Amazon, any place, you have a million jobs, right? You're in charge of growth and PPC and budgets and products being shipped and tariffs, and you got enough stuff to deal with, right? The way I look at it, young Shane, so I have like 3 Shanes, right? I have like Shane 1.0, that was young, immature, whatever Shane. I'm not going to say I'm mature these days, but I'm Shane 3.0. So this is where we're at today. Shane 1.0 would clearly want to do it all himself. He was like, I'll take it on. I'll work 25 hours, which there's only 24 hours in the day. Do the math on that one. But I seriously at one point was working 18 to 20 hours a day, because I was like, oh, I'll do it. I'll figure it out. Shane 3.0, I can't wait to find somebody smarter than me to take on a piece of the business that I don't want to take on. Do I want to do accounting? No, I have a CFO, right? Do I want to go in and look at my reviews every day and be taken down, like just physically and mentally looking at them going, man, this is just terrible? No. Like, let us take that on. Let us go. That way, it's one less thing you have to worry about. That's what I always tell people, because now I can't wait to outsource something, because I don't want to go figure it out anymore. I want other people that are professionals in that area. And these, I want to know enough about PPC to understand what they're doing, but I shouldn't have to go take on the PPC myself. Like, I want to find somebody else that's great at that, because guess what's going to happen? If you take on all of this, not all of it's going to be going well, and something's going to fall out. You're going to miss something, as you said. Even if you have a team, if you are that bottleneck, you're that person everybody has to go to. Delegation. Now I'm going into delegation, but that's a whole different thing. You want other people to take that on, not only just in the review stuff, but in any aspect of your business. Figure out, hey, what do I enjoy doing and what do I want to outsource? And I can promise you, nobody's ever said, I love looking at my reviews every day. I love looking at my negative reviews because it makes me so motivated to continue to work that day. No, let somebody else deal with the getting punched in the face and dealing with the Amazon and the other things that are going on there. You can work on growth. You want to work on your business, in your business, if possible.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I see that happen so often, because Amazon's made up of a lot of sellers that are just entrepreneurial. They're motivated and then driven to succeed. but they don't have the business acumen that a true business professional oftentimes may have as far as experience. So they tend to take on everything, like you mentioned, and they don't necessarily step back and say, wait a minute, am I adding value in everything I'm doing? Do I like everything I'm doing? Am I the best at everything I'm doing? And if those questions are unanswered, or those questions are that you really shouldn't be doing it, then you need to be delegating, or you need to be outsourcing or something. I had a conversation with a client maybe a week or two ago, and I said, let me just ask you this. I said, what do you like doing in your current role, everything you're doing, and what do you not like doing? And let's structure the engagement so that you are doing the things that you love and you're comfortable with, and the things that you're not in love with, you don't like, or you're just not, you don't feel like you have the best skill sets. Those are the things we can help augment or help you find solutions for, so that you're happy at the end of every day and you feel like you're contributing the most. Because I can't tell you how many times I've talked to an exec, or one of these Amazon sellers or something, and they're like, "Oh, you called me in the warehouse. I was trying to get some shipments out." I'm like, "What? No, you shouldn't be doing that. Please stop doing that. You are not using your time wisely. Anybody else you can hire for $8 an hour can do that, but not everyone has the strategy and the abilities that you do to drive the business forward. You should be pushing the team, helping the team get better and better, not just rolling up your sleeves and adding some muscle. Otherwise, you're misguided."
Yeah, the key is I mean, that's awesome. You go and you're helping some people in the warehouse, or or maybe you're the only person there. But at the end of the day, you got to figure out how much time are you going to spend in your business on a daily basis, and what are the most valuable things you should be working on. Because what happens is, and I've done this in my businesses in the past, I was a fireman. All I was doing is putting out fires all day. I wasn't growing my business. My business was and I was doing the marketing, but I had to talk to this and do that. And it's like, wait a second, like, why am I talking to you like when your day's off and all these different things that need to happen? That's an HR thing, right? And not everybody's going to be able to come on and bring a 10-person team on to take on everything. I do like, hey, you should go in and try to get some of this stuff done yourself and figure it out. But guess what? The minute that you think about what your hourly rate is, great. If I'm X amount per hour, why are you in the warehouse shipping out $10 items and you send out 3 of them? Like, that is not the best use of your time. And it doesn't even need to be full time. You can have somebody come for an hour at the end of, whatever the end of the day, and they're going to do the shipments because they can do 20 in a row. So what you got to think about it, and I love that, is what do you enjoy doing? If you don't want to burn out, if you take on everything and every day is you're drinking, 6-pack every night and you're waking up and you're like, God, I hate this. It's only going to get worse if you don't start delegating and figure out, okay, what are my superpowers? Right. That's one thing I realized is superpowers. Like, what am I really good at? And where do I want to, and what do I suck at? And I can tell you, accounting, if I ever offer to do your accounting books, just run. I've clearly been drinking or something, because there's no way that these little fingers are, I'm okay with the calculator. I can do it plus and add and divide like a champion. But anything when it comes to P&Ls and stuff, like, I was trying to do that. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, why do you just, I now, my 8 hours, if I work 8 hours in a day, are so more productive than the 20 hours I used to work a day, because I'm delegating. I know that I have a team that's going to be, I know this guy's doing, or the girl's doing accounting. And I know my CFO is looking at this. And I have my team that's, doing backlinks or writing articles, or guess what? I can't take that all on. I'm not going to be able to grow the business successfully. My goal is an operator, just to hire these people, bring them on, and have everybody on task. And that wasn't Shane 1.0. I'm telling you, there was so many things that were held back because I was like, no, I'll review it. It's like, well, hold on here. This is an email. Like, somebody else can review an email and say, hey, does it have a call to action? Does it, is it impactful? Is it emotional? Does it make people want to click? You don't have to be in the middle of everything. In fact, you shouldn't be in the middle of everything. The test you have to ask yourself is, can I go on vacation? Is my business still run? If you can't go on vacation for longer than a day, if you go on vacation for a week and your business is in the crapper, guess what? You don't have a business, and nobody's going to buy your business either. So if you want to sell your business, you have to have SOPs. You have to have protocols in place. You have to have things in place. You need to be replaceable, because if you get hit by a bus, ask yourself, if you get hit by a bus, which is terrible, hopefully nobody gets hit by a bus, then what's going to happen with your business? Is it still going to be able to go? Did you leave it so that, somebody else could pick it up and say, all right, I know what I need to do next, because this is what he does on a daily basis. This is how he handles this. Do you have that in place? If you don't have a business.
You brought up a couple of interesting points. One is, I just want to reiterate my point about you shouldn't be in the warehouse. You should be in the warehouse for a couple things. You should be understanding the process that people are going through and can it be improved. And you should be showing that I'm willing to jump in and help out when I need to. I'm not above you guys. This is not a job that you should be ashamed of. Like, we're all gonna pitch in and do this sometimes, but it should not be your day to day. Amazon has a really good program that I went through when I was there as part of their Amazon leadership training program. Was they sent you to multiple warehouses and you had to do every role in that warehouse.
I love that.
I can't tell you how much enlightenment that provides when you're like, why are we having to go into this screen every single time when if I'm doing this role, that should be the screen that's up all the time. And you just realize that, oh my gosh, there's all these inefficiencies that are in place that need to be improved, that the people that are just doing the task, they're not thinking like a business owner. They're just thinking like this is what I was told to do. So you got to be like interjecting yourself and saying, are we doing this for a good reason? Or are we doing it just because that's how we've always done it? And if that's because that's how we've always done it, reevaluate that and say, is that the best way we should be doing it? Is this the most efficient? Could we use, more automation? Could we put some of this on cruise control? Could we use systems and tools to improve our process? There's so many things that need to be evaluated in that. And then also another point that I thought of while you were talking was, just like you just talked about the business owner not being able to like go on vacation without things falling apart and having standard operating procedures and stuff. That creates the opportunity for you to sell your business and so forth, like you mentioned. But also think about that for key individuals in your company too, because you may have said, oh, this is the person that knows everything about that. I really don't know it well enough, and I don't have standard operating procedures. That person gets hit by a bus, as you mentioned, or they leave or something. And now you've got all of this information that was up in their head. No one else knows how to pick up the pieces, and your business could falter. So think about any single point of failure and say, how could I eliminate any single point of failure and make sure that anything can be done in someone's absence just based on published SOPs or just awareness that multiple people can do this role.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You want to figure out where you're going to be vulnerable if what happens if somebody left or if somebody got hit by a bus, right? Like, what does that look like? You don't need to do everything. You just need to understand the process on how to do it, right? And be able to assign it to people. I do what we used to do and we still do is like SOPs, but we'll also do videos. I'll just say, hey, this is a new process. Can you guys do a quick little Loom video? Just show us how you guys do it. Great. And the reason why I do it too is also my employees, because we run a thin team because I want to run a thin team and be profitable. And so, my team wants to go on vacation. We do SOPs and all that kind of stuff just because I want them to be able to go on vacation and not come back and have 1 week's worth of work that they missed out on, right? Because they were supposed to be on vacation and now they're just stressed for another 5 days. Like, that's not fair either. It's like, figure out what's happening here, right? To be able to make that right by saying, hey, listen, you're going to be on vacation or, you're going to leave and go to another company. Well, guess what? I need to know how to do this. And 2 weeks sometimes isn't a long enough time to understand, to unpack everything that they do. And, it's important to think about that, be more, once again, proactive instead of reactive, and figure out, hey, if I lost this person, what would that look like? And how do I make it so that I at least have some information here? So I know 80%, 90% of what they do so that I can assign that and give that to somebody else. Because nothing's worse than hiring somebody and saying, I really don't know what they did. I mean, I know what they did. I just didn't know how they do it. So if you can figure it out, that'd be awesome. Like, it was like, oh, that sounds super cool. Let me just go ahead and reinvent the wheel because you didn't, I know SOPs in place or something in place to educate me to be able to take me to that level where I need to be able to take this over.
You also mentioned how you would not be your ideal accountant, right?
Oh, God.
Every employee has skills that they thrive with and skills that they don't thrive with. And you need to be, as a manager or leader, trying to evaluate, do I have the right people in the right roles? A lot of times we put people in a role because they did really good in their last role. So we assume, oh, they're going to be a good manager too. And maybe they don't have good management skills, or maybe we haven't set them up to be a good manager because they don't know how to do it and they need more coaching and oversight. Or maybe I I said, oh, this person did great in this operations role, I can put them in a creative role. Those are different skill sets. You've got someone that's analytical versus someone that's creative. They're probably not going to cross over in that way very well. So always evaluate your team. Make sure that you, as the leader, have made responsible decisions and you're evaluating their strengths and weaknesses and moving things around accordingly.
Well, and there was a book, Built to Last, there was a statement in that book that I will never forget about having all the people on your bus, but are they in the right seat?
Yeah.
Right. So that's really what it comes down to. Hey, this is an A player. They love the business. They would do anything for the business. But moving people around either can be successful and be great. And that's an awesome move. As you touched on, you could make your top sales guy or girl, a man, make them a manager. But but why? Like, if they don't want to be a manager, if they don't enjoy that, or if they've never managed people, like keep them on sales, and also ask them what they want to do. Like, not everybody wants a promotion. I don't want all the responsibility. Like, my wife is a nurse, or she's retired now, but like you have the head nurses there that make an extra, dollar or two an hour, or whatever it is. And guess what? And now you have that extra stress for an extra dollar or two, or $3 an hour, $5 an hour. Like, no, I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, I'm a natural leader in the sense that I've owned my own businesses and I've learned a lot through that process. So I'll say natural, but I've learned a lot, when you go through that. That's the other thing I see a lot of the times, is that people that will hire like virtual assistants and expect them to do everything. Oh, can you do graphic design? Hey, can you do pictures? Can you do my accounting? Can you do this? And it's like, no, that's called Superman. Like that. We don't have not a lot of those people are out there. So, you got to think about that. Is, once again, it's like, that's the other thing too, is if you have 5 things that need to be done, if you do them all individually, and if somebody leaves, you're not losing a person that does everything, right? Now you're dividing, it's diversifying, in theory, risk. If somebody was to leave, great, this person did backlinks, not a problem. We have SOPs in place. They left. We can hire somebody else, but we didn't lose our accountant. We didn't lose our graphic designer. Those are all separate roles that when you divide that up, and once again, it doesn't have to be full-time. It could be the same thing that you were going to pay one person to do all of that. You can divide it up 5 ways and bring them on. And then guess what? The people that excel, bring them on full-time and figure out a role, assuming you obviously it makes sense from a revenue perspective or from a cash flow perspective. But yeah, man, I've learned a lot through the years. I think we all have, right?
Yeah. I mean, another thing is, you mentioned about having different tasks for a role. And if those tasks are a small percentage of their time, you got to question, are they really an expert at that? So if they're only doing something 5% of their time, do you want them to be trying to learn and stay abreast? And do you have confidence that they're actually an expert in that area? Or is that maybe something that you should consider outsourcing? So you always have to weigh the insource versus outsource too, and say, hey, if my team's doing it on a higher frequency, I want to take it in-house. That's a good thing. But if it's something they're doing with very little frequency, how are they going to stay, up to date on the latest SEO happenings or something that are going to make sure those backlinks are dialed in? Right?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's what you got to evaluate. At what point does it make sense to outsource? And outsourcing is a very powerful tool. Once again, when I was young, I didn't do a lot of that. And I finally thought, man, I'm just crushing myself and trying to figure out everything. It's like, but like, why? Like you have other people that are, in the amount of time that it takes to figure out, I could maybe figure out what you do in 6 months, but it's going to take me 6 months. Like, what are you really doing? How much are you going to save? What is your hourly? Right? You look at that and go, okay, I'm going to go and crush this and figure this out for 6 months. Well, what else are you going to lose out on in those 6 months? Growing your business. Like, there's so many other things. And so, now the hard part is finding the right people. But once you find the right person, as we talked about, you get them on the bus and you just got to figure out where on the bus you're going to set them. And once again, it might not be the right place. They might be supposed to be in the back of the bus or maybe in the middle of the bus. You just got to figure that out. But once you find a good person, then you figure out how do you, help grow that individual for your organization, but also protect yourself by having SOPs and, understanding that if something does happen, that you're going to not be in a bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this was all really great stuff, Shane. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with our audience. Why don't you tell people how they can reach you and then reveal your surprise that you mentioned earlier on?
Whew, man, my hands are clamoring the whole time waiting to tell everybody about this, Steve. So anybody wants to reach out to us, obviously the website is www.tracefuse. That's TRACEFUSE.ai. So it's not .com, .ai, because we obviously have an AI component to the software. You guys can reach out to me. My email is just Shane@Tracefuse. Obviously, I'll answer that if you guys reach out. And then the special offer that we have for everybody. So, our program is a performance-based program, which means people only pay when reviews get removed. So there's really no risk. But sometimes, you can have thin profit margins and stuff like that. So what we realize really at the end of the day, as much as I love money, I really enjoy helping sellers. I mean, that was the reason we created this. Obviously, I'd like to have a salary too, but the idea was to help sellers because it's already hard enough. So what we did is we created a tool called the Amazon Review Checker, and we'll put a link in the show notes down below. But what it is, it's a place where they can go in and they can actually put in their ASIN. They got to verify their email address. And what will happen is we create a report for them. The report will be sent to your email, and you'll be able to get that report. It will tell you of the last, let's say, 20 reviews or 10 reviews, which ones are in violation and which ones you should be filing on. And it tells you exactly why they're non-compliant, what rule they broke with Amazon. And you can take that and you can bring it to your, SaaS Core rep or whoever that is, or, click the report button and send something over to community help or whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. You can go ahead and send that over to them, and you can say, hey, these are the reviews that violate Amazon's guidelines. What we're using here is AI that we've created. So it's not a chat GPT thing. We were doing AI stuff about 3 years ago. So this has been, because of machine learning, we've gone ahead and made it so that now it's going to be awesome. It'll tell you exactly why it's in violation, and you can file on your own. So it doesn't cost you anything. And so that will be, once again, Amazon Review Checker. You can do that. But if you guys have any issues and can't figure out, and Amazon's not removing the reviews, we'll always be here to help. But like I said, at least give it a try on your own. See if you can save yourself some money, because no better price than free 99 if you can get it done.
Yeah, and I think it's also probably really eye-opening for them to see how much is available to be removed. And then if they think about that across their catalog, maybe it makes sense to outsource that also. So no, that's awesome. Love that you're offering that. Well, thanks everybody for joining today's Prosperous Sellers podcast. Once again, my name is Steve Yates. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can go to primeguidance.com and schedule a free call for a listing audit. I'll be happy to give you feedback around your listing and share half hour of free information with you. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day.